In this video, I want to discuss presence of mind, and in particular, presence of mind in regards to thoughtful processing, and how being present in our perceptions during thoughtful processing really helps us to cultivate a greater, more effective process of thoughtfulness through bringing our attention in relation to our thoughts and allowing us to also have a little bit more freedom in terms of directing those thoughts, and also participate more proactively in regards to our perceptions in a thoughtful process, allowing us to think more deeply and in alternative ways, as well as ask and think of our own responses to various questions and respond to various questions that we become curious about in thoughtful processing and then throughout our various thought processes. And you can think of presence of mind as having two very different components, a mindful component and a thoughtful component. And I would like to make a distinction because mindfulness and thoughtfulness overlap in a lot of ways, and they have a lot of similarities, and to some extent there's only very minute aspects and processes that distinguish the two. They tend to be two aspects to the same process, or the same overarching process, involving largely our perceptual and psychological stimulations, just more or less where they're located and where the precepts are, and how many precepts are being engaged, and the level of constituencies that they're occurring on, and forming these various constituencies. So when we're thinking about mindfulness and thoughtfulness, we can think about it as being analogous to meaning and engagement, where meaning would refer to aspects and characteristics involving these reciprocal relations regarding a characteristic of an object or a component that we perceive in regards to the environment that's conveying a set of meanings that can be versatile, but also have a set of stable meanings that allow us to make coherent sense of a particular object or subject with that meaning, or given that meaning, attributed that meaning. Well, engagement has to do with the processing of meaning, and often the absorption and dedication placed in regards to a task. And it often also involves interest and stimulating meaning and engaging in a meaning process. And often we can develop meaning through a process of engagement, and often meaning is direct to a process of engagement through direct perceptions that entail engagement. And meaning entails engagement, and engagement entails meaning, similarly to how mindfulness entails thoughtfulness, and thoughtfulness can entail mindfulness. When we're thinking about mindfulness, it pertains more to these sensory precepts in regards to our surroundings and what we're directly experiencing, more of this empirical meaning, this direct sensory meaning, what we're feeling in embodied states, what we're directly making physical contact with, and forming impressions of, also our current thoughts as they arise and then as they pop up in perceptions, and the perceptions that we have in regards to ourself and surroundings that are seemingly automatic, and which which are automatic, and which percolate into consciousness, and which might also involve the temptation, the tendency to respond to those thoughts, in which a thoughtful process is interacting with a mindful process. And when we start to stimulate, or we become, say, interested or curious in what's automatic, and we engage more in this volitional and deliberate process, we start to simulate more of a thoughtful process. And this is distinct from mindfulness, in which we're more creating space between our subjective self-stimulated thoughts that have more of this thoughtful direction in terms of expanding the contents of our perceptions and our thinking through thinking about the multiple types of meaning in relation to something and an object, rather than the empirical qualities, and really coming to inform an empirical meaning rather than a perceptual meaning that involves more of this philosophizing and thinking more elaborately, rather than perceiving directly and engaging more in an exploratory sense of an object. So mindfulness very much involves presence of mind that is aware and recognizing the various conditions and contents of perception, where thoughtfulness involves thinking about the meaning and thoughts associating meaning, and thinking about what we think, our own perspectives regarding meaning and perceptions about meaning in relation often to well-being and what optimizes well-being. So when we're engaging in a thoughtful process, often we have these judgments and other thoughts that are associated with the thoughtful process in regards to the content, the objects of that, and the central meaning of what we're talking about and thinking about within the thoughtful process. We make relations that are oriented and directed towards optimizing well-being and reducing ill well-being. We try to reduce what's potentially harmful or think about the worst case scenarios, and tend to work on and plan out the best case scenarios, and think about the positive characteristics that help to elaborate and form the meaning of something, as well as broaden our thought process and thinking process, which is all connected to this thoughtfulness. We expand the meaning of what we're perceiving when we're engaged in that thoughtful process, whereas mindfulness is acting more as this perceiver, direct perceiver, that's absorbing the information and more engaging in this interest, meaning, engagement pathway, but an engagement pathway that is not so much focused on that direct stimulation of thought that's involving these cerebral, mindful, and perceptual psychological processes that involve aspects of philosophizing or simply responding to questions, thinking about questions, asking questions, becoming curious, and then forming our own perspectives, or hashing out our own ideas and thoughts and developing them out further in more of a dynamic process, and forming these dynamic relations between thoughts that expand meaning and form more of these meaning associations, and also enrich them and tend to integrate them in various ways, as well as test them and filter some out over others and move towards an optimizing direction. So that's a little bit about the distinction between mindfulness and thoughtfulness, and how presence of mind in relation to both of those help to distinguish them, but also how they interact to help to optimize them. So presence of mind, just to recap, in mindfulness connects us directly to our precepts and allows us to really hone and sharpen the acuity of our perceptions regarding the self and the surroundings, while thoughtfulness helps to expand the meaning and the thoughts that we're thinking during and within a thoughtful process to make more of these meaningful associations and connections, and an optimized thinking that is often making these considerations and focused on improving wellness or regulating ill well-being and what can be harmful to wellness, in association with the meaning of the content of our thoughts, that helps to expand that meaning and thinking in regards to the self and surroundings, which is part of this thoughtful process, and which ultimately helps to facilitate greater self-intelligence and knowledge regarding the self and the world around us. So that's all I wanted to say for this video. I hope you enjoy. Bye.